Hey everyone, welcome back to the Creative Entrepreneur Academy Profit Maximizer Masterclass series, where we've been having so much great information from our creative experts and influencers who sharing their secrets that help them push past the 6 and 7 figure mark. I know that you were made to create, to grow, to profit, and do what you love to do. And so I'm Turdon DeBow. I'm the founder of the Creative Entrepreneur Academy and your host for this Masterclass series. I am very, very excited about today's topic because today we are talking about brand storytelling secrets. And here to educate us on this topic is Michelle Ohana.
Hi, very nice to be here.
So grateful to have you here. Now, Michelle is a former Pixar animator. She's an artist and a world traveler. She's always had a passion for connecting through story. As a child, she drew comic strips based on her friends. And as a bartender in college, she acquired a gift of relating to her customers through sharing stories. And later, as an animator, she learned the art of crafting a story from Pixar, where they say story is king. And it wasn't until she was asked to give a talk at UC Berkeley Business School that she realized how powerful the art of storytelling could be to inspire others. Now, when she was giving a talk about her career and her life, she was overwhelmed with the response from students. What inspired them wasn't her glossy-looking career, but her authenticity and vulnerability in sharing her struggles along the way. This sparked a calling in her to commit to inspiring others to live their best lives, to live out their purpose, and to inspire through sharing stories. Nowadays, Michelle coaches female entrepreneurs to use the art of storytelling to attract their ideal clients authentically. She uses her intuition to guide them to feeling totally aligned with their message, who they want to serve, and how to overcome any blocks that they may have from being vulnerable and authentic online. And together they craft their brand stories for social media, PR, and more. And she's committed to empowering women to share their truths and reveal the magnificent women beneath the surface that are being called to rise. So thank you again for being here, Michelle.
I'm so happy to be here, and it's so nice to hear your own story read out to you like that.
Yes, I come to find out that storytelling is just so important in the way that people share ideas and the way that people allow people to understand concepts and things like that. Storytelling is used so much around us and we don't even realize it or realize the importance of it for people to be able to connect through stories. And so I know that you have an awesome presentation for us today, so I'll let you get right into it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen with you and I'll talk to you a little bit about how to particularly craft your brand story. Okay. So, what is your brand story? Your brand story is a story that you're going to tell in your business about why you do what you do. It's like the main story that you're going to tell to get people to understand why you're so passionate about it, why you're capable of showing them, or, if you're like a consultant or a coach, why you're capable of teaching them or coaching them through something. So everybody's brand story is different, but it's going to be your main story that you share that's going to get people to understand you and want to work with you. And I also coach people on, micro stories to share, and everyone has a ton of stories in them. But this one seems to be the one that people like to start with. So yeah, I'm just going to go over how I kind of work with my clients and give you some basics to start uncovering the basic elements of your brand story. Okay. All right. So why are stories important? Story is the heart of your marketing. It's the heart of your sales, and it's your brand. So when you are selling yourself, when you're selling your services, you're basically selling who you are, right? People are signing up to work with you. And today people don't fall for like salesy scarcity tactics anymore. They want to work with somebody who they really believe cares about them. And they also want to work with someone who shares values with them. And so, you could have a million different business coaches out there, for example, but the one who shares a story that you feel connected to, that's the one you're probably going to choose to work with. And it doesn't even matter about the price. It doesn't matter like where in the world they live. If you feel a connection to them, usually you want to buy from them, right? And so it's really all comes down to their story, how they got there. And it's probably that they told a compelling story that made you understand who they are and made you know, like, and trust them. And so people will remember the way that you make them feel more than they will remember what you say. And that is just a known fact. That's how the human brain works. And that's why we've been telling stories since the beginning of communication between people. I mean, people will go on an emotional journey with you when you tell them a story. And so they're much more likely to stay engaged. And they're also much more likely to remember what you told them. So if you're just telling somebody like hard facts, you know, about what they should do or why they should like you, they're probably not going to pay attention for as long because people just have short attention spans these days. But if you start telling them a story, they're going to listen. Their brains are going to pick up on that and they're going to want to know what happens next, right? And you just have to do it in the right way. So I'm going to share that with you for a little bit. And yeah, your story creates know, like, and trust. So there's, you know, of course, in marketing, the know, like, and trust factor. Your story is going to create that, but it's also going to create it authentically, right? And so what's great about sharing your story is you can market yourself, but you can also feel really good about it because you're being authentic and vulnerable, and they're going to want to work with you because of who you truly are. Okay. So being authentic and vulnerable, that is the biggest part of this. And I've had so many clients that come to me that are having a hard time with this. And so that is one of the things that I work with them on is what is holding you back from being you? You know, what stories are you telling yourself that, you know, aren't serving you anymore? Why do you feel like you can't share your story? Why do you feel like you can't share who you are? What are you afraid of? Some people are afraid of being judged. Some people don't feel worthy. Some people don't feel like they're enough. And so that's something I really like to have my clients ask themselves, and we work together on this is, you know, what might be holding you back from sharing the story that really needs to be shared here? Because a brand story is not your life story. That's your bio, right? Your brand story is the deep story about why you are doing what you do, why you're passionate about it. And so there is a core story in there, and that might be hard for some people to share. And really, you don't have to share, you know, about your divorce if you're like a social media strategist, right? It just depends on why you're doing what you do. And so, you know, try to think about like, where am I not being authentic? What story is in there that I'm afraid to share? And then, you know, write it out and see how you feel about sharing that. And this is one story that a lot of people tell themselves is that I don't have a story. My life is boring. And I just want you to know that everybody has a story. Everyone's life is a movie. You just don't see it because you're the hero of your own film. And I know that everyone's life is a movie because when I talk to people and they start telling me what they've been through, I'm like, oh my God, I can see your story so clearly. You just can't see it. And I've never met anyone who didn't have a story or multiple stories in them. So if that's the story you're telling yourself, you want to rewrite that story right now to my life is a movie. All right, so who are you talking to? Let's see if I can move this out of the way here. All right. Who are you talking to? That's the first thing you need to know when you are creating your story. When you want to tell any story, who is your audience? You need to know your audience first because that will dictate which story you are going to tell. So, you know, if you want to tell a story about, let's say you're trying to sell something for weight loss, right? And if you have a group of women that's your audience, you're going to tell a different story about that than a group of men, right? Like, why are women, you know, concerned with weight loss? What are they trying to benefit from when they're losing weight? It could be, you know, they want to look good in a bikini. They want to attract a man. You know, maybe they're starting to feel like they're getting old and they just want to tighten it up, right? So you want to appeal to those things. For a woman, you want to tell a story around that, around why you care about them having that thing, as opposed to, you know, if your ideal client, if your audience is a man, if they're men and they're, you know, like young men, then they're going to have different benefits that they're going to want to get out of it. So you'll want to tell them a different story. So really it all comes down to like, who are you talking to? So yeah, so your ideal client, you know, they have the classic avatar. If you don't know what an avatar is, I'm sure you probably do, because this is a marketing. I think this is like all about marketing, but just in case, you know, your ideal customer avatar is, you know, you're trying to come up with who your ideal client is, who you really want to sell to, and who you're talking to in your marketing. So you're not really excluding other people from buying from you, but you just want to know who you're talking to so you can tell your story effectively, and so you know which one to tell. So one thing I like to start with is, you know, what are their struggles? What are they going through? Like, what's keeping them up at night? What are their dreams? What are the benefits they're looking to get that your product can help them with? And lastly, what are their values? Because people will buy from people who share their values. All right. I don't want to make this too long, so I'll just keep going. Do I have a time limit on this, or?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. All right, cool. And all right. So for your story, your ideal client should see themselves in your story. They want to be able to see themselves as the hero of your brand story. And so whenever you're writing your brand story and thinking about, you know, what should I share? A good rule of thumb is to think like, can they identify with the struggles and the benefits that I'm sharing in this story? So for example, you know, if you like, I can go back to the weight loss example. You might want to share a story about how you went through that same struggle that your ideal client is going through right now, and then how this product helped you and then brought you out to whatever benefits they're looking for, right? So let's say they're, you know, they're overweight, middle-aged, and they're feeling, you know, really bad about themselves. They're feeling unattractive and they can't seem to attract a mate. Right? So you can tell a story about how you were there, or how someone you know was there, or how you were in a similar situation that made you realize like, oh my God, I need to do something about this. Share what happened, share how you used your product, and then share how great everything is now. And if you haven't been through that yourself, you can share, you know, somebody's story who has been through that, or how you came to care about that. And it is different and unique to each person. And so that's why it's great to have a story coach, because they can help you on an individual basis. But oftentimes when you're selling something, you have a personal relationship with it. So if you're selling a coaching program, you probably have a personal relationship to why you're selling that thing. And usually there's a story in there. There's always a story in there for why you care about it and why you believe in it. And that's the story you're going to want to tell. Okay, what is your core message? So your core message is, you know, why you're doing this. It's your message to the world. What are your core values? And I like to ask my clients, you know, what are your core values behind your business? And what, you know, like if somebody were to tell you right now the world's going to end, and you have 60 seconds to tell the world one message in case there are survivors, but you know you're going to die. Like, what is your message to the world? What is it? You know, for me, it was be yourself, be authentic, and don't be ashamed of that. It was, you know, be unapologetically you, and just love yourself enough to know that that's enough. And that was my message to the world. So think about what is yours, and how does that tie into your business? How does that tie into what you're all about? Because those are your values, and people want to buy from you when they share your values. And it's okay if your values don't match everyone else's, but you want to attract the people that do share what you know, what you believe in, because those are going to be better clients for you anyway. And so I like to ask people, you know, think about what your core message is and how that ties in. And if it doesn't, think about, ask yourself whether your business is in alignment with what you're doing. And oftentimes it is. And this might make you feel even better about what you're offering. And it might help trigger, what your story actually is when you start thinking about your big message. And like I said, it's different for everyone. So it's like a case by case basis, but this is true for most people. Okay. And next, what is your why? Why are you doing this? And we all have different whys. So there's your personal why. That could be, maybe you want to make lots of wealth so you can buy your family a home and you can spend more time with your family. And then you can have, your big global why. So maybe you want to make a lot of money in your business so you can save the world. Maybe you want to clean up the oceans. Maybe you want to, like me, what I want to do, my global why is I want to save as many abused animals as I can. So instead of starting my own, farm animal sanctuary, I can start lots of them if I acquire wealth with my business, right? And so that's my big global why. Those are my values. And then your business why is, why are you creating this business? Why do you want to help people with whatever you're doing? And so those are like 3 different ways to think about your why. The ones you really want to share, the one you want to share is your business why. And, sometimes your global why will really come into the picture. It just depends on what you're selling. Okay. I hope all of that's clear so far. This is a lot of information. Okay. So questions to ask yourself. Were you once your ideal client? If you were, then you have an advantage because your story will probably easily come out of you. So, then you understand what they were going through. It's going to be really easy to create your customer avatar and think about who they are and what stage they're at in the process of meeting you. And then you're going to be able to speak specifically to their struggles. And so you're going to start your story with where they're at right now, right? Like, so, I was once where you are, and you pinpoint those feelings, and you pinpoint, what they're going through and what they want. And then, you can like talk about how you hired a mentor or whatever got you out of it, but you want to share your struggle in there. And then you're going to share where you're at now, and now you're great. And if they hire you, they're going to flourish like you did. So that's one example of a way to tell a story. So if you were once your ideal client, that would be a really great story to tell. And it doesn't have to be your entire life story. It can just be starting from where they are at right now so that they will immediately connect with it. I can give you an example of that. So if you are a business coach and you want to get people that are stuck in their 9-to-5 jobs, start your story there with, like I was sitting at my desk feeling like I was in a prison and I just couldn't do it one more day. Like start talking about what they're going through at that particular point. If you're a business coach that wants that in your ideal client already has a business and they just want to make more money, but let's say they're making consistent 10K months and they want to make even more. Start your story there with, I was making 10K months, but it wasn't enough, and talk about what those people are going through. And so you just want to relate it to who they are, right? To where they're at right now. So that's something that I think a lot of people slip up with is they want to tell like their whole story. People don't want to hear that. They want you to get right to the point. So appeal to where they're at right now. Okay, what struggles have you been through? People want to hear the struggle. So what makes the story interesting is when you share, when you're honest and you share the struggle. And so, people don't want to hear, and they don't really want to buy from Miss Perfect. They want to know from somebody who's honest and who's sharing their transformation and who's being vulnerable with them. And that's just how people are right now. And you don't want to view it as a weakness. A lot of people are afraid that they're viewed as weak if they share that they went through anything that wasn't pleasant. but it actually works to help people understand that you're a human being, and they'll feel closer to you if you share your struggle along the way. And it also makes your story really interesting. And then you want to make sure to share the resolution. So when you're sharing a struggle in your story, so let's say, let's go with the business coach idea. You can say, I was working at my 9 to 5 and I didn't know what to do. And I decided I wanted to be a coach. So I started trying to be a coach, and then nothing was working. Nobody was signing up for me. I was going broke, whatever your struggle was. And then, I hired a business coach, and that changed everything for me. And all of a sudden my business started to flourish. So you want to share the struggle, but make sure you go into what happened to make you hire the mentor, which is you. In their story, the mentor is going to be you. So you want to share with them, how you came out of the struggle, and how you might have dipped down again, but you always want to take them into the resolution and into how you persevered and you got through it, and now your life is amazing. So I hope this is making sense to everybody. Okay. Another question to ask yourself is, what made you a badass? What is your credibility? How did you get your superpowers? So in some stories, if you weren't your ideal client, a nice way to open up could be to share about, your credibility. And then you can share some struggles after that. So it is a case-by-case basis. And I did make a 5-video training series on explaining this a lot more. But basically, there are different ways to structure your story. And if you weren't once your ideal client, you could start out by, saying just catching their eye with your credibility, or with, what made you awesome. And then you can go into sharing a story about why it's important to you to help people in whatever way that you help them. Okay. And what makes a good story is transformation. So have you ever seen a movie that was kind of boring and you didn't really want to watch it to the end? It was probably because the character in the movie didn't go through any sort of transformation. They were the same character in the beginning as they were at the end. And if you've ever heard of the hero's journey, that is Joseph Campbell's, it's the basic storyline of Star Wars, pretty much. It's what makes a story interesting to people. And that's, taking the hero and having them go through a transformation and a journey into becoming something else. And so you are the mentor. Your business is the thing that is going to take this person from their struggles and to whatever benefits they're looking for. And so you want to show the hero of your story doing that. And so you would just want to make sure to clearly portray that in your story. And that is all. I hope that was nice and concise.
Yes, that was a lot of great information.
Okay,
Thank you so much for sharing that. There were a lot of great takeaways that people can get, and that's literally the blueprint for people to be able to create their brand story. And so now I know that you talked about people having fears of sharing their story. So with that being said, how would people break through those fears of sharing their story, or getting over that fear of rejection or judgment or things like that?
There are a few ways to deal with that. And I did have a friend ask me, once, how do I stop caring about what other people think? Mm-hmm. And I really had to ask myself that, because I'm like, how did I stop caring about what other people think? Because I used to care a lot. And there are several ways. One was stop hanging around people that judge. That was right. One. It was, a lot of us grow up in families that maybe try to keep us down or judge us. Or maybe we've been judged in the past, or perhaps we were bullied as kids. You want to figure out what's that story there that's keeping this fear alive in me. And then start surrounding yourself with people, even if it's online, that are going to lift you up and that are going to make you feel proud to share. And start sharing little snippets, you know, like, why don't you just share with like somebody you trust and ask them how that sounds?
Mm-hmm.
And it's about putting yourself out there in small amounts and building up your bravery and your courage to
Mm-hmm.
put yourself out there. And it is scary, but the only way out is through, and you have to just like little by little uncover those pieces
Mm-hmm.
of what is holding you back. And that's something I like to support people with one-on-one. A lot of times it comes from, you know, childhood or something that happened to them. And I think the first step to healing that is to just pinpoint like where you decided that about yourself, where you
Mm-hmm.
decided you should be judged, and then just rewriting that story and revisiting whoever that little girl or boy was inside of you that needed that love at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and just clearing the judgment away little by little. It's like layers. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I think so. And then, you know, I was thinking about my own story and how I got brave enough to start sharing who I am. And I realized it was when I met people that supported me and who I
Mm-hmm.
am, and I stopped hanging out with people that didn't make me feel so good.
Right.
And yeah, and it's just finding those people. And that's the wonderful thing about the internet right now, is you can find amazing communities of people, and you can use Skype and Zoom, and maybe you've never met them in person, but you can find that support. So that's one way, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great too. And I definitely agree with you, because I know when I started being more vocal about some of the things that I've gone through in my story, I realized that what helped me, like you said, was I started having a core group of people that I trusted, that it's like, okay, if I'm good with them, then it doesn't matter, you know, who else isn't good or who else will judge the story or anything like that, because if you have a core group of people that do love you and support you and are there for you, it's easier for you to be vocal about your journey, and then understand too that you're vocalizing it for the people that are for you, your audience, which will
Hmm.
be attracted to that. And anyone else is not meant to be on that journey with you. And so,
Totally.
yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Um,
Exactly.
when I know some people say, like, you know, either I don't have a story, or I have a story, but I just don't know how to tell it, or they feel that they have a fear that they're going to do it incorrectly. So what do you think the top three mistakes that people make are, that people make when they create their story?
Okay. Number one is probably they tell their entire story, their
Mm-hmm.
entire life story. And so they'll tell their whole journey from, you know, they're like, well, I have 50 years of my life to tell. I'm like, no, that's not your story.
Right.
That's your biography.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one, is they feel like they have to tell their entire journey of their lives until they got to this point. Probably number two is they don't share enough of the resolution. So if you ever seen a story on Facebook that somebody's sharing and you felt like it was kind of annoying and like they were whining and it sounded more like a diary entry, if you've ever seen a story like that, that is because they just shared way too much of the struggle and they didn't take you into the resolution, into
Mm-hmm.
how, you know, they resolved that. And so
Mm-hmm.
it starts to just, if they stay in the struggle for too long, it starts to make people uncomfortable because they actually are going on this emotional journey with you. That's how their brains work, right? And so
Right.
it's actually, you know, you're one of my mentors, one of my story mentors, she says, you know, it's actually the responsibility of the storyteller to take them out of the struggle and into the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And so that's probably the second biggest thing that I see. And that's also why a lot of women that I work with, I only work with women right now, but men and women. It's why a lot of people are afraid to share their story because they don't want it to sound, you know, so pushy or all about me, or like they just want attention. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
because they've seen a lot of stories told badly and
Yeah.
they don't want to sound like that.
Right.
Yeah. So those are two mistakes. And I think the third one that I see is people aren't speaking to the right audience.
Mm-hmm.
So they might have a really compelling story, but they're not truly thinking about where their audience is at, because there are different stages in your ideal client's journey to getting to what they want. So you might be telling a story that might have appealed to them, like a few years ago, but maybe they're not at that stage anymore. So you want to start your story with where they're at and really have them in mind, and share with them, what the benefits they're going to get, and do some market research. I don't think enough people do enough research to, to really understand and get into their client's head and know what they want right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true too, what you're saying, because one of my mentors told me is that when they first started off in their business, they spent the first 3 months doing the market research and really, really, really knowing their audience, because then it makes it much easier to do anything after that. But a lot of times people are like, oh, I think I know them. And they do kind of what they think. And then they kind of breeze by that part and try to go into everything else, and then find that, oh, well, this message isn't connecting, or, I'm not really reaching who I want to reach, or I don't have the right thing or the right offer in front of them or anything like that, because they didn't take that time on the market research. So I definitely agree with you on there. Now, what are some specific roadblocks that people can watch out for when they're creating the story, so that because a lot of times when we sit down, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, and they sit down, and then you get frustrated, like, okay, and then they hit blocks, and then they end up stopping or procrastinating or not pushing forward. So what would be some specific roadblocks to watch for?
Yeah, I am no stranger to writer's block, I'll tell you. Okay, so I'll tell you about one of the books that changed my life when I was younger, and it's called The Artist's Way. Um, and um, and it's still a bestseller, but it's about getting through those creative blocks. And especially when you sit down to write, and when you're writing about yourself, it can be really hard. So one block that I see for people is that it just seems like a really daunting task, and they just don't start. So what I suggest is what's suggested in that book is free writing. And it's also a really wonderful healing experience just to free write. It's very meditative. And what you do is you wake up first thing in the morning, give yourself an extra 20 minutes or so, and just write whatever is coming out of your head. And basically you could do just a brain dump, or maybe a poem will come, maybe some stories will come out, but it's just non-judgmental writing of don't judge what you're writing, but just, it could be gibberish, but just like start getting used to just committing to writing, and just like get everything out, all your fears, all your worries, just journal it out. Whatever comes up for you. And I think that's really helpful, because it starts getting you used to like just writing whatever's coming out of you. And then you get the initial stuff out, and then the real stuff starts to come through, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes total sense. I always encourage people, when they're looking to be more creative or to stop overthinking stuff, is to do a brain dump, because you get everything out of your head. A lot of times people just keep things in their head, so there's stuff in the back of their head or stuff like, and they have to push through all these things to act, and then they end up forgetting all the stuff that they're supposed to do, because there's so much other stuff lingering in there. And so I'm an advocate for brain dumps, to just sit down and get it all out, and then sift through all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing is, another block I see is like, people are like, I just don't know. And it's like, well, just start writing down lots of stories, and just write down your life story. Like, look up the hero's journey and write your whole life out like that. Because when I work with my clients one-on-one, it's pretty amazing. We'll like come up with their story, and then they'll have a week of free writing, and then we'll meet up again. And they'll be like, oh my God, I had an epiphany. This is actually my story. And the more you start writing your stories out, and your life story, not only is it really healing to write out your life story, and it can get emotional, without you even realizing you needed to heal from those things. Sometimes just writing out your life can be very healing.
Right.
But then you'll go deeper and you'll be like, oh, actually there is a story here. And you'll start to see where things connect and why you're doing what you do. And that's what I love about it. That's what I'm so passionate about, is like, not only is this marketing and like helping you to be authentic and vulnerable, but you know, like you're going to uncover things about yourself and understand yourself a lot better and heal from maybe things you didn't even know you needed to heal from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is a great way to be able to not only connect to yourself on a deeper level, but connect to the people that you want to reach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree with you. Now, how has creativity played a part in this journey, and how much creativity is involved when creating your brand story?
Oh, okay. Um, I mean, I think that, I mean, you can infuse creativity into anything.
Hmm.
Um, so you mean how much creativity is involved when you're writing your own? I think it's really great to channel whatever it is that makes you feel creative when you're writing out anything. There's this space that you can get into. And I like to meditate first before I write or before I paint.
Hmm.
If you're just getting into this space of just receiving inspiration, um, then, you know, I think whatever comes out is better. So whether you're writing copy, whether you're writing an email, whether you're writing an Instagram post, it always seems to be better when you're not forcing it and
Hmm.
you're just allowing it to come through you. And
Right.
so I think that goes true for your story as well. When you're trying to write out your stories, that's why I like the free writing, is, you know, do it from a place of inspiration. So do whatever makes you feel good first to get into that creative space, and then see what comes out. So I think that goes true for anything that I do in my business or
Mhm.
in my life. It always seems to work out better when it's, you know, like a place coming from a place of feeling good.
Mm. I like that. I like that a lot. So yeah, you've shared some great tips with us. You shared some great information with us. And I do definitely appreciate you coming on here, because I believe it is just so essential for every brand to have a story, because it's really literally the thing that separates you from anyone else. This is what makes you stand out in the marketplace when there can be 100,000 people doing the same thing. Your story
Hmm.
is so unique that no one can copy that. No one can do the same thing with that. And so I ask all of the people that have been guests on here, I ask everyone, there's so much great information that you gave, but you know, knowledge without implementation just leaves people stuck in the same place. So what is one thing that people can do today from what you've taught that would get them started on the journey today?
To get them started on the journey to writing their story,
Yes, to get them
one
started
thing you can do today is get to know your audience. That's the first thing you need
on.
to do. So I would just write down, like, how well do you know your audience? Write down their struggles, get into their heads.
Mhm.
Imagine you're sitting across the table from them and ask them what they're going through. Like, imagine it's one person. Be like, what are you going through? And what is it that you want? And then ask real people, you know, and really get into their heads. And that's going to give you an idea for, you know, okay, so what story do I have in me that they can relate to, that
Mhm.
also has to do with why I'm doing this? And I would just start there.
You know, I've never heard it from that perspective. To like, you're sitting across from the table and then asking these questions, and then ask different people those same questions, because you know, we see the avatars and we see things on paper, and it's like, okay, and then you kind of go through that. But if you're actually positioning yourself as if you're talking to them and asking them these questions, I believe the answers change and you're able to get more in depth. So I really like that.
Yeah, I learned that from one of my mentors as well.
Mhm.
I am constantly learning from the best in the industry,
Mhm.
and you know that I just like to share whatever that they share with me, and that was one thing that I took away from one of the best marketers that's out there that I learned from. And yeah, it was it was just about like imagining it's a real person
Mm-hmm.
and talking to
Yeah.
real people.
Yeah, that's an awesome tip. Awesome tip. And Ken, I know you have a great gift for everyone today who's on the masterclass. Can you tell
Mhm.
everyone more about your gift?
Yes. So I normally have a free brand story workbook that I give out, but I also did a 5-day training series. It's a video series that was originally a challenge in my group, and it was so well received that I made it a paid training series that you can buy. But I'm going to give you guys that for free as well. So I'll give
Woo-hoo.
yeah. So I'll give you the workbook, and it goes along with the training series. And by the end, you should have the elements of your brand story.
That is awesome. Do you hear that, everyone? You guys get this great tool to help you get started on building your brand story for free today just by being on here. So
and
thank
I'll
you so
yeah.
much, Michelle.
And I'll warn you, it goes a little deep at first. I'm a little woo-woo. So in the beginning, it starts with a meditation, but it just tries to I try to get you into that creative space.
Mhm.
And people seem to really love it. So I hope
Mhm.
you enjoy it and try it out and give it a chance.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing everything you shared today in the masterclass on how people can start the journey of telling their brand story in a way that really connects with people and connects to their audience. And I want to thank everyone who's watching and listening today. I definitely want you to keep in mind that everything you want to achieve is on the other side of your comfort zone. And you were made to create, to grow, and to profit from doing what you're passionate about, and don't let anyone tell you anything differently. So I'll be emailing everyone today with the replay and in a few minutes, and with the gift link that you can get from Michelle. So until next time, bye.
Bye.